Located on 225 acres in Garden City, Long Island, Nassau Community College, a member of the State University of New York system, has close to 20,000 students attend the school each year. The college mascot is Leo the Lion, and these are his stories of the school's absolute best and brightest who have graduated over the past 50-plus years. So let's catch up together as the Alumni Association of Nassau Community College proudly presents Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Lion Tales, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Aurora Workman. I am president of the Nassau Community College Alumni Association. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Dr. Lynnda Nadien, a proud graduate of Nassau Community College. And together, we'll share stories that will inspire, uplift, and often amuse you.
Each week, Aurora and I will introduce you to alumni of Nassau Community College interested in sharing their experience here at Nassau Community College, along with the secrets to their success.
On behalf of the Alumni Association, we want to congratulate the newly installed president, oh, that must be me, and the board of directors. We expect a year of alumni happenings and contacts with more alums. So if you're an alum of Nassau Community College, please contact us with your bio at ncc@ncc.edu.
Look for many new and exciting events on the Alumni Association social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and our web pages at nassaucommunitycollege.edu/alumni. If you, our listening audience, has any positive news you would like to share about Nassau Community College alumni, engagements, births, graduations, weddings, and or accolades, email us at alumni@nassaucommunitycollege.edu and we will shout you out.
Today's guest is Gillian. Now, can you say your last name for me again?
Sure, it's Sobocinski.
Gillian Sobocinski, class of 2016. Her professional background is in music education, but her true passion is women and gender studies. She has explored her passion and is an advocate for social justice and wants to work on issues related to mental health and gender. Her experiences at Nassau Community College enabled her to focus on her viewpoints and make a difference in this world. Welcome to Lion Tales, Gillian Sobocinski, class of 2016.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about your decision to attend Nassau Community College.
That's a great question. So I ended up coming here kind of an interesting way. That I know that Nassau is known for having non-traditional students, and people come here in all different ways, but I came after I already had a bachelor's degree from Hofstra. I did music education, but I found that it wasn't the right fit for me in terms of my career. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and really didn't know kind of where to turn. But I decided, why don't I go back to school and try to take some classes in different subject areas to see what I'm interested in, which was something I didn't really have an opportunity to do during my bachelor's because it was a very intense program where we didn't have a lot of electives.
Right, yes.
So I had heard a lot of great things about Nassau. My mom actually is an alum of here from the 70s.
Oh, another guest.
Yeah, I told her. I was like, oh, I bet they would have you if you want to come on.
She has to come on now.
Yeah. So yeah, she had a good experience here, and I had friends who had gone here and just recommended it. Also, the price is definitely great, which I think is great for a lot of people. And so yeah, that was what motivated me to come here.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of your favorite courses that you had here?
I really loved taking Intro to Women and at that time it was called Intro to Women's Studies, but now I think they changed it to Women and Gender Studies. That was a fantastic class. I took it with Dr. Sarah Hosey. Shout out to her. She's the head of the Women and Gender Studies project.
Yes, I worked with Sarah. I worked with her on a lot of projects that we had.
Yeah, she's fantastic. That class was really like life-changing for me because I had never taken women and gender studies before, so I didn't even really know what it was. And she's just such a great teacher. The people in the class were really excellent. It was a small class. It was only like 15 students, so we really got to hear from everybody.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorite classes here, but I also had great professors in the philosophy department too that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and then, so you have a significant story related to your own mental health needs, and can you speak about that journey?
Yeah, sure. So it's been quite the journey. And I actually do talk about this for the volunteering that I do as well. So I'm used to like telling my story to different groups.
Yeah. And that you do volunteer for the National Alliance for Mental Health?
Mental illness. Yes. NAMI, which has chapters like all over the country, but I volunteer for the New York City chapter.
Yes.
I really started to kind of go through a lot with my mental health during my senior year of high school, which was 2009. But at that time, and I had symptoms even prior to that from when like I was in middle school, but unfortunately, since there was very little mental health education in my community, I just didn't. And there was a lot of stigma. I didn't talk about it. I kind of just tried to pretend everything was fine and like push through. And that kind of continued all the way through my bachelor's degree that I did in music education. I just kind of wanted to really push through and try to get it done, even though I was going through a lot. And it wasn't until actually after I graduated from that program and I had some time to kind of decompress and see like, okay, this career is not really right for me, music ed that I'd been doing, and kind of look at like where I was, that I realized I really needed to start like going to therapy and dealing with this. And so I have generalized anxiety disorder and depression, but I've been, in recovery for, that was 2014 when I first started going to therapy. So ever since then, I've been like in recovery, working on things, and I'm in a much better place now, and I really I think it's important to speak about it, to break down the stigma.
It is, and it's important that people understand that going to therapy is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of people, like you said, and a lot of communities, especially in communities such as us, feel that going to therapy stigmatize your whole, person, and it actually helps. I had made sure that people who needed help or had issues were going. So talk about that. A lot of young people will be like, oh, Mom, I'm not going. Mom, I don't want to see this person. But how did you make those steps?
Yeah, I know it is really hard for a lot of people because I've talked to my friends about it as well, and it took me many years to kind of overcome that internalized stigma, because I think people just think like they're a failure if they can't solve their own problems, or they're just like, what is this person going to do? And understandably, like, it's somebody you don't know, so it's hard to go in and be personal and talk about those issues, but I was at a point where I was kind of in a crisis, so I really needed to do something. So that was what kind of pushed me. But I do recommend people going before that point. And, sometimes it can take time to find the right therapist for you, but it is worth it in the end. It really does make a huge difference.
Yeah,
the fact that you're listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Aurora Workman, along with Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and our guest today is Gillian Sobocinski, who presents to young adults in the state to provide them with insight into mental health conditions and encourages them to break down the stigma and become whole again. So how do you encourage? Because I know from working with a lot of young people and college age students, there are sometimes, we have on campus areas where you can go and talk to therapists, psychologists, or counselors. How did you, we were talking about those steps that you made, and it took a while, but you did it. Congratulations for doing it. How do you tell young people that you speak to make these steps?
I think that's a really important topic, because there is such a high need amongst college age students and, young adults, adolescents as well. And I think that just opening up about our stories really makes a difference, just to show, you never know what somebody else is going through. There's so many people going through this, so people are not alone. just opening up those conversations, I think, really helps a lot, and encouraging people just by saying, like, I went through this and it's not easy, but like there is a lot of help out there. There is support, and things can get better.
Yeah, do you find that it seems to be a trend of, let's say, 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds, and probably beyond that, but I do see a lot of pressure put on individuals that are graduating from high school and that are expected to, snap their fingers and know exactly what they're going to do and exactly what school they'll go to, if they even go to school at all at the beginning. And I think that creates a lot of internal anxiety, because you need to prove to yourself what you need to do, and then everyone else is expecting so much from you. Are you seeing that when you're working with these young people?
Yeah, and I mean, I really experienced that personally as well. I think there is an enormous amount of pressure. I think that the amount of money that college costs puts a lot of pressure on people who are kids, like you can't even comprehend that much money when you're 17 years old and how it's going to affect you in the future. And I think that it forces you to make this like very difficult decision that really people that young shouldn't have to make. Like I really believe that it's important for people to get a liberal arts education, like
absolutely
explore different subject areas. Yeah. So many people don't know what they want to do when they get to college, and I think there's so many subject areas that you have never taken in high school. So it's important to have that opportunity to explore different classes. But I think those financial pressures really eat away at a lot of people, because they feel like if they go to school that's like more expensive than Nassau, for example, they feel like I can't take extra time, I need to finish in 4 years, and that can be really difficult because you want to make sure you're doing something you really like.
Right. Well, you made it through school with honors and awards and being on the provost list, and so that just tells me that you were committed to excellence, but you were probably applying a lot of pressure because you were a stellar scholar at Hofstra, so I mean, and that must have been a journey, but you came out with a music degree, and that's when you said, I don't want to do music.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did put a lot of pressure on myself. I think that was actually in some ways like a negative coping mechanism I developed, was perfectionism. So I really felt like I had to be perfect in school, which is it's not good for your mental health in the long run. I mean, I love school and I work very hard at school, but like you can't push yourself like to that degree, and you have to remember your self-worth comes from inside you, not like your grades. But yeah, I really did work very hard at that program, so it was really difficult after I did my student teaching and I did some like substitute teaching, and I just found this is just not the right fit. It was hard to come to terms with that. But that's really why I think like Nassau was such a great place for me, because I was going through a really hard time, but coming here, there was a real sense of community. I had really amazing professors who really cared about the students, and that helped so much.
Yeah. What's your main instrument?
Flute.
Oh,
yeah.
So see, I mean, you still, it's interesting that a lot of our guests are musicians or actors or do something in the arts as well. And sometimes, even though that's your deep love, you may have gone the music education route. And then you realize, it might not be exactly what I want, but I do love my instrument. So do you still play?
Yeah, I mean, I love music, definitely. I've made it more of a hobby now, which is fine by me, because it's like, then you can kind of do your own thing with it.
You can play for the fun of it.
Yeah, and what I've really been wanting to do is actually try to learn like electric guitar and get into more of that genre. But yeah, music is fantastic, and I highly recommend like to everyone, if they can, participate in ensembles. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with gender, or what are you doing with gender and women's studies?
So yeah, that was a really amazing opportunity to do a second bachelor's in that. I'm so happy I was able to do that at Hunter College, and I feel like it really just opens up your thinking on so many things. You really see the world for like what's actually going on. You learn a lot about social justice, and you get to hear from so many diverse students about their experiences. And my plan is to apply for Masters of Social Work programs, which I think will be very relevant.
You are listening to Lion Tales. Today's guest is Gillian Sobocinski, a future therapist and advocate for youth and presenter who currently volunteers at the National Alliance on Mental Illness and a proud alum of Nassau Community College. My name is Lynnda Nadien, along with Aurora Workman on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
My name is Hunter Hayes. I know myself, and I know my buzzed warning signs. One shot is about knowing my limits, or not necessarily knowing my limits.
I start with one shot to have a good time.
One of the signs that I'm starting to feel a little buzz is when I start solving not only my own problems, but the entire world's problems. When I know I'm going out, I know I'm going to start with calling for a ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Lion Tales, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Dr. Lynnda Nadien, along with Aurora Workman, and our guest today is Gillian Sobocinski, a volunteer for the National Alliance on Mental Illness and a future therapist.
So tell us a bit about the Alliance and their goals.
Yeah, it's a really great organization. They focus, like I said earlier, they are a national organization, so they have chapters all over the country. I volunteer for the New York City Metro chapter, and they focus on, they have support groups, they have classes for people who have mental health conditions or people who have friends or family members with mental health conditions. They also have a lot of education programs, and they have political advocacy as well for people with mental health conditions and those issues.
And then now your goal about becoming, you said you're applying for a social work and about becoming a therapist. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Right now I'm planning to apply for Masters of Social Work programs. I'm not 100% sure yet, like, which area I'll end up going into in the field, because it is actually a pretty wide-ranging field. Yes. I am very interested in mental health, so that is a possible direction I might want to go in terms of getting certified to be a therapist. But yeah, there's so many different ways to go. I am interested in more of there's the micro track and the macro. Mm-hmm. The micro is more working with individuals and small groups, and that's kind of what I'm interested in. But you can work in schools, healthcare settings, the criminal justice system. There's lots of different areas where social workers go, which I find really cool about it.
And I think, the need is definitely great in terms of the right people counseling individuals that need, especially when if there's a shortage, and you want to make sure that, again, that you are with a therapist that is actually suited to your particular needs. Like, let's say it's PTSD or some type of other issue that you may have had, that someone is expert to work with you.
Mm-hmm. So when you were here at Nassau, and we've been talking throughout the show about the journey that you took and how liberal arts had changed, your perspectives. Tell us a little bit about your move, your viewpoints, and how you moved toward exploring the depth of mental illness and being a social worker.
Yeah, I think that, like I said earlier, going to college and taking classes in all different liberal arts subjects, I think, is really fantastic, because it really broadens the way you see the world, and you learn about new perspectives, diverse perspectives that you may not have heard from in your town where you grew up. And definitely women and gender studies helped with that a lot. Just talking, because in women and gender studies, you don't just talk about gender, you talk about race, sexuality, class, disability, and how all of those different facets of our identities intersect, and how they relate to larger social and political and economic issues. And that, in addition to kind of what I went through with my mental health, really just got me thinking about the intersections of these, like, the personal issues we experience, but also how the larger political issues and what's going on in our community affects our mental health as well. And that's something that I think is really important for people who work in the mental health field to take into account how these larger issues affect people's mental health.
Now, we've had guests that have come from many communities on Long Island, and when they got here, they had epiphanies. Okay, so you're from Huntington Station, New York. Mm-hmm. What epiphany did you have when you came to Nassau Community College's campus?
That's a great question. Yeah, Long Island, unfortunately, is a very segregated place, which I think is really, really unfortunate for anybody that grows up here, because when we're in schools and we're in communities with diverse people, that it just makes our education a lot better. It helps us in so many ways, and it's a more realistic version of what the world is like. I was lucky that my town is a bit more diverse than other towns on Long Island, but definitely coming here, it was even more diverse, and you got a chance in your classes to hear from people that you just didn't normally have in your classes in high school, and that really makes a huge difference, especially in these kinds of like humanities classes where they're very discussion based. So yeah, I would say the diversity at Nassau is a really fantastic thing.
And you know, meeting people that have sort of eclectic talents, and then you sort of talk to them and they become, you know, your friend in the class. And if the classes are smaller, you develop relationships, and you may be more likely to speak about certain topics where because the atmosphere has been made comfortable for you. Did you find that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that the professors I had really created a great atmosphere in the class, especially that Intro to Women and Gender Studies class. I think everybody felt very comfortable to speak. Some people even spoke about very personal experiences that you would never know that they went through just from looking at them. And it shows, it just shows people are going through so much. And it's just really incredible to have all those different perspectives coming together and talking together.
And then we know we can never really judge a book by its cover, because when people can have internal suffering, and it's very hard to tell, because I find that most people that have internal suffering have a very specific method of hiding it. And we would never really know what they're really thinking, and then when it actually comes out, you say, wow, you know, you really handled that well, or sat on it well, without, you know, seeking the help that you may have needed.
Yeah, and I think even often before people learn about like feminism and these larger like how the personal is political, to use that phrase, people go through issue like trauma or some kind of like really difficult event, and they think like, well, this must have been my fault, like it's just me going through this. But Women in Gender Studies really gives people the opportunity to see this is reflecting a larger issue, that other people might have experienced this, that it's not like your fault that this happened. So I think that it opens up a space for that too.
Well, shout out to Professor Sarah Hosey, who is just a fabulous, fabulous instructor. You're listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Aurora Workman, along with Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and our guest today is Gillian Sobocinski, an advocate for women in gender studies and a volunteer at the National Alliance for Mental Illness. So, what are you going to do? What are you doing now with this passion, and you know, how are you proceeding to get to your end goal?
As of now, I'm still volunteering with NAMI, as I said, and I am hoping to start a Master's of Social Work program in the spring semester. So I'm applying right now, and I think that'll be the best path for me to take to achieve my goals career-wise, and I'm hoping that I'll enjoy that program.
Oh, I think you will. I think you carry a lot of the women in gender studies with you, you know, and so that any program, your master's program, I think I had a great experience doing my master's because it just fully just kind of really opened up. You know, you don't think that you can be opened any more than you are,
and then you do something,
discovery, you know. That's why when I said an epiphany, because I was like, discovery is constant, and if you accept and open up, you know, you can receive these kind of nuances that are going on. You know about different people, you know about gender. So in gender studies right now, what are you focusing on?
Well, the areas that I found most interesting, like I just graduated from that program in May of this year, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And we have to take like a research methods class for our final semester. So for that, I actually did a paper that was kind of having to do with media studies. So that doesn't really have that much to do with social work, I guess, but I really have an interest in that, so I wanted to kind of do that while I had the opportunity. I wrote about the character Harley Quinn, who's a DC Comics supervillain who's very, very popular and really nuanced, just a really interesting character to look into. She's really popular with female fans, which I found interesting. But other issues of women and gender studies that I'm interested in that relate to social work are like domestic violence and intimate partner violence, sexual assault, issues of like sexuality.
There's
so
my
many
dissertation
connections.
on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on domestic violence, and I studied two communities: LGBTQ community and the African American community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a great study. So you piqued my interest when you said Harley Quinn. Why is she such a? I mean, I like her in terms of don't take her off the show. Let her stay with the franchise, because she always brings some quirky kind of things. And in your discussion, how do you introduce her?
It's actually, she's a really complicated character. Like, yes. I really think you could write, like, an academic could write, like, a whole book about her. Because she has so many contradictions. And in my research for that paper, I read some of the more, like, famous, well-known comics with her in them, like her origin stories. And there's so many contradictions, and it really depends on who's writing her, too. Like, I noticed that when she had male writers and artists, there was a lot more sexism and objectification of her.
Right.
That's true, yes.
And a lot of demonstration of that domestic violence relationship between her and the Joker. But then, like, I read one comic that was by a female writer. It's a more recent one, and she was portrayed really differently, like, not quite as objectified. She had, she was the main person in the stories. The Joker wasn't even present. So it's interesting how different writers can take her in different directions. And I think there's a lot of fan fiction about her as well, which, like, if somebody were to write a book about her, I think would be interesting to look into that as well.
Hey, you can write that book. That's right.
I guess I'm going in a different direction, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and it's amazing because I think somewhere in there, you can deal with mental illness and gender.
Yeah, it definitely does relate. It's really interesting how, when you look at Harley Quinn and the Joker, there is a lot of ableism in how they're presented. Like, they're often defined as, like, crazy, and there's a lot to even dig into in terms of that, how they're shown.
Yeah, we were just at a mental health workshop that we had gone to, and there was a survey given to a group of teachers there, and the word that kept coming up was crazy. And, really it bothered me very much, because I felt that if adult teachers who were, fully educated generally would just assume that anything to do with mental illness is equated to that word crazy, then I think we really do need a lot more information about mental illness and what we can do to combat that, especially for, young adults and even middle school students, because the pressure is great. And we need to really be aware of that and make sure that we create classrooms where there's an inclusivity and acceptance.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really shows how the stigmatizing language has become so normalized.
Absolutely, yeah. It really has.
Yeah, and it does contribute to that stigma continuing, definitely.
Well, we'd like to thank our guest, Gillian Sobocinski, class of 2016. We know that we are going to see some wonderful things from this young lady, and so we're going to be looking out for you. For those who know volunteering at NAMI, can you tell them how they can?
there is a national website. I believe it's NAMI.org, NAMI.org. And you can go on there and see kind of what the organization's about, and you can also search for your local chapter. Like I said, I volunteer for the New York City Metro chapter, which I think is one of the largest chapters in at least this area and possibly the country. And they offer a lot of like support groups. They have a helpline. They have classes. There's a lot of great volunteer opportunities.
Thank you so much for being with us.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, along with my fabulous friend Aurora Workman, president of the Nassau Community College Alumni Association. This show is a production of the Nassau Community College Alumni Association. Visit nassaucommunitycollege.edu/WHPC for more information. Available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. Lion Tales is powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk to you next week.